It's very special to be here today. It's been a long journey, these 2 years and some months that we have been away from each other, and it was a long journey to get here today. But here we are, and as Andrea said, with lots of gratitude in our hearts, and it was just amazing to arrive and to see you all. I really miss all of you, and to be able to be again in person, to hug each other, to feel your energy, to touch you, it's priceless. To the ones who are coming for the very first time, welcome to our family. We are very happy to have you here with us today. For the ones who are watching us online, please stop by sometime. We would love to give you a hug as well. So I thought that to reopen our activities, we would talk a little bit about the Spiritist Center. As time goes by, we come here, week after week, and kind of get a little bit on automatic pilot, and we forget the complexity of this space. Looks simple: walls, chairs, people. But as we know, some of us know, there's a lot more to the physicality of this space. Just like when we enter a church, it feels different. Whether you believe on something or not, there is a specific energy to that place. If you're mildly sensitive, it feels different. Sometimes I enter some spaces, I feel like I want to just be quiet and still in respect to the energy that you feel in that environment. And this is a spirituality, but this is also science. We are all energy, and spaces are also energy. And the energy of this space has to do with the energy that we project into that space. So spaces of spirituality are spaces where people are projecting their hopes, their faith, their surrender to something that is higher, and the environment is impregnated with those vibrations. So here we are to talk about this space. What is it, and what does it have to offer to all of us, and how can it make a difference in our lives? So I'm going to start by bringing these stats from the World Health Organization, and this was in the middle of 2020, where it spoke about the rise in the statistics for depression, anxiety in the world as a result of the pandemic. This is nothing new. It was a very, very tough and difficult time for all of us in one way or another. And the Psychology Today states that one of the most significant effects of the pandemic was the breaking down of social connections, which is one of the main ingredients for resilience. So our connections, our interactions, day to day, face to face, it is one of the most powerful things to help us to endure life. And not only it helps to build resilience, so that's having someone, having relationships that are meaningful, have friends, is what gives us that strength that allows us a lot of times to bear what seems to be unbearable, and to go through times as we just had right now. And so we lost that. We were isolated from one another in a time where there was so much pain and suffering in the world. Hence the increase in mental disorders and all kind of difficulties with our emotional health. But when we look at the pandemic, there were certainly benefits as well as losses that came from it. So when I think about the benefits, a big one was we actually remember that we had families. For a lot of us, it was like, okay, now you're home with your family. And for me personally, just kind of rediscovering the benefits of spending more time with my kids, with my wife, sitting down to have dinner, just kind of being able to be more involved in the life of my family. It was a blessing, because a lot of times, and if you're new in Spiritism, one of our mottos is, outside of charity or outside of love, there is no salvation. And a lot of us have taken that, have interpreted that as we need to be out there doing, serving humanity. At times, neglecting the humanity that is inside our own homes. And so that has been a challenge for me, and it's something that I think the pandemic really, really helped me to kind of reset some of my own time and management of the things that I was doing. We went back home, but we went back home, meaning back within. We were forced to go back within. As we faced the struggles, as we faced the losses, a lot of times we were triggered to look at what is the purpose of life, what are we doing here, what's happening to the world, who am I, what is, just trying to make sense of everything and make sense of ourselves and who we are and our humanity. It helped for sure with the dissemination of the message. I mean, not only the Spiritist message, but many, many messages that were confined to the physical spaces of groups, temples, church, did get incredible reach. We had people from, all over the world joining our meetings during this time, and many, many conferences in a collaborative way with speakers from other countries as well. So this was a gift to be able to join forces with many other spiritists from all over the world and put conferences together. Most of us at some point enjoy some of those online. And then it was easy and convenient. So this year, many, many times I had a meeting online that was at 6 p.m. and my son's football schedule changed. For a period of time, he was playing right next to our home, so he would bike. But some other days, they changed to a field that was a little far. So what do I do now? I have to take him, but I also have to be in the meeting. So I would say to the people online, just get started, because I'm driving back home in the meeting, right? So I'm driving to the field, I drop him, I'm in the meeting at the same time, and I say, as soon as I get home, I'll change to my computer. And then I would get home and I would change to the computer to do the final prayer and the final, and many, many times, that's how I was able to be on that meeting. So certainly easy and convenient. We can join meetings from anywhere. But like I mentioned, loneliness and mental health issues did increase significantly. We had the end, many groups didn't survive financially the hardships of the pandemic, and I think in Spiritism, but also elsewhere. We had a significant distancing and disengagement of the public from our activities. Some people just said, online is not for me. And then the workers, it was hard. It was difficult. And when we think about our humanity, it's hard for us to be engaged and connected to the message that we are immortal spirits. So it is the world that we live in is very material, it's very dense, and it's very easy for us to believe that what we see, what we touch is the real thing. But with that comes also all the distractions. What's really important, right? So we have so many things pulling us in so many directions. And so how do we stay connected to the spiritual work? And some people may say, well, but that's easy. It's just it's inwards. We don't need to go anywhere to do our spiritual work. That is so true. But for many of us, going somewhere, being somewhere, having that routine and that structure is still what helps us to stay engaged and to stay connected. So I don't know about you, but we have been back, and the idea like, oh man, I have to leave my house to go to the center, really? So we just kind of got in that comfortable zone to like be home. Why can't I just, I have more time to stay home. So, that's there as well. So just a few questions for us to think. So if we look back at the pandemic, and this is for us who were here before, but perhaps you were engaged in some other place as well. How did you manage yourself throughout the pandemic, as far as your spiritual commitment, as far as your spiritual journey and the spiritual work that you do? Was it as consistent as before? Were you able to stay as engaged? Were you able to have the same level of discipline? Or, I'll join this next week, maybe I'll do something else right now, right? Were you distracted, more distracted or not? Did you study systematically in the same way that you did when you were at the Spiritist Center? Were you able to maintain your routine and discipline? Were we mentally and emotionally engaged in the work that we do in the same way? Maybe your answer is yes. Maybe it's no. It's different from each one of us. But, and certainly we are not here, myself, this place, Spiritism, to tell anyone what is best for you. Because at the end of the day, each one of us, only I know about my life, what I go through, what is my routine like, what is my psychology like. No one can tell me what to do. Nor can we tell anyone what to do. But we can reflect about what was it to be 2 years without a more structured place to go. What did it represent to each one of us? And look at some concepts that can help us to think moving forward. What makes more sense for me? And again, this is a personal choice, like everything else with the higher spirits, our mentors. They never ever tell us do this or do that. Never. Free will is part of spiritual growth. We are free to choose, and we will necessarily reap the consequences of our choices. And whether we're going to label those consequences as positive or negative, they're always going to bring some learning. Because if you choose something and the outcome is good for you, you're sure that was perhaps a good choice. But if you choose something and the outcome wasn't as good, there's something to learn from that choice. Maybe I do need something else, and we go on and try something else. So when we think about spiritists, and I'm going to be very specific here, it's the Spiritist Center, right? We have news from spirits who bring messages and books that this is a specific group of individuals who are compromised with hostile and aggressive religious groups and political parties in the past, in past lives, because reincarnation is one of our main tenets. Currently learning to be submissive and to serve. The spirits who have been transferred from powerful positions to more humble positions, and for whom the immersion in the physical body is not enough to hide old tendencies. We certainly see that today, specifically. But we are then, a lot of us who are involved in the spirits movement are spirits who have been in these positions of power, in positions where we have been politically involved, and now we are brought to this space and to this situation where the main purpose is to learn to serve under a different guidelines and different values. Another message says that we are doing what we can, since most of us were delinquent spirits who fell in the past due to the abuse of intelligence and excessive personalism. We can say that that's probably humanity, but we have been struggling with the understanding of who we are, with our egos and the illusions. But the bottom line is that we as humanity, and my friend John doesn't like this idea so much, but I'm going to pick on him because that's part of reopening the center. If I don't do that, it wouldn't be a real reopening here. So, us humanity, we are still spirits who are characterized by our difficulty in accepting God's presence, God's wills, God's laws, God's love. We want to do things our own way. And we like to think that we know better. And although we do the Lord's Prayer and say that we want God's will to be done, that's not necessarily true. We just say it, but we don't necessarily mean it 100% all the time. We do bargain with God. We do have our ways of going about our relationship with God. So this is who we are. We have a difficult time. We struggle. Part of the suffering, part of the pain that we see in the world has to do with our difficulty in seeing, understanding life, and in submitting. So this is where we are in our evolution. So the question is, are we mature enough to manage our spiritual journey without the physical space that provides the structure and that assists to discipline our activities and daily lives? I will tell you that none of this is really necessary. And I truly believe that. I don't think we need temples. I don't think we need structured activities. We really don't. Because the field of work for any of us, spiritually speaking, is the world. And the temple of peace should be inwards. It's the heart, it's the soul. So if we are connected to this inner temple that we all have deep within, if we are connected to the power of our mind and the thoughts, if we are connected to the purpose of life at all times, if we understand that relationships are the key element for our spiritual progress, then anywhere we are, we can be working on our spirituality at any time. We don't really need anything. But that is when we are at a certain level of awareness that we can sustain this type of consciousness and are able to constantly be doing the work and manifesting, the awareness in our daily lives. But we're not quite there yet, I would say. For the majority of us, we go our daily lives, we meet people, and how often in your interactions, for example, do you bring the awareness that the person who is being mean to you or disrespectful, or in days of elections like today, is your brother in God and deserves your respect? And because he or she thinks different than you, he's not less because of that. In fact, that person's worth is just the same of yours. So those are types of mentalities and awareness that's hard for us still to hold solid within us. So having a space to come back, like today, to talk about those things, to be together, is, for a lot of us, is still helpful and important and necessary. And we look at the different ways that that is the case. So why should we return to the Spiritist Center? So first thing, this is a spiritual construction. So what happens is those groups, those temples, and I again, I'm talking about Spiritism, but I believe that this is true for any religious congregation. These are idealized and they begin at the spiritual realm. So we are one humanity together in different stages of vibration. In Spiritism, the basic concept is that the only death that exists of the physical body. We are always alive. We are either alive inside the physical body or we are alive outside of the physical body. That's it. It's just a different vibratory state, but there's only life when we think about the spiritual perspective. And whatever relationships you had remain with you, and whoever you are, you remain to be that exactly same person with everything that you have learned, with everything that you have loved, you remain. So these groups, they start in the spiritual realm and they will manifest in the physical realm. So that's something important to remember. Then some people walk in here and said this morning, oh my God, it feels so good in here, right? Because what happens is, right now, I don't know what kind of troubles you had yesterday. I don't know what kind of doubts, struggles, pains you bring with you today, but you listening to me. I feel your engagement. We are all here together thinking about the same thing. Our thoughts are connected in one idea. You're following me, I'm following them, and we are all together here connected. And this energy and these thoughts and these vibrations are here in this environment that was already also prepared by the spirits who work in this environment and who are connected with us. So the space here is the communion of all these thoughts and energies. They are homogeneous, they are harmonious. How many other places do you walk in and you find people vibrating and thinking about the same thing? So, sum of vibrations, sanctuary of blessings. There's a lot of spiritual interchange. So the spirits are always next to us. A lot of times we have what we call intuitions. But suddenly an idea comes into your mind that you are like doing something completely mundane, and then an idea. Was that yours? Maybe so. But maybe someone whispered that to you and you captured that, because the spirits, again, they're very involved with our daily lives. They're always with us. And the thing is that when we enter a space like this, what happens is we're, again, our mind, our vibration is in tune with the environment and the vibrations here. And a lot of times it's easier for them to whisper. But also it's easier for us to capture because we're still, because we are open. And so the interchange happens anywhere. It's true. You can do it anywhere. But the environment of the Spiritist Center facilitates, assists a lot of times. We come in, we are stuck, we obsess in one idea, and there are interventions that happen that help us a lot of times to undo certain knots that we bring in our thinking process. And when we leave here, we're like, oh, a couple hours later, new ideas are coming up, a different way of seeing a certain situation becomes more obvious because we open the space to the connection in an environment that is meant to assist with better connections. So spiritual partnership, again, we're here not alone. So I am being assisted right now by my partners here with me. You are being assisted right there by your partners to listen, to open. There's this energy renewal. Again, we come in a lot of times feeling very disorganized, very toxic, and we are definitely breathing better energies. And it offers us this possibility of in-depth study, which we can also do online. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So these are just some of the aspects of being in a spiritual center and different places of prayer, of spirituality that we don't always recognize. So the Spirit, Bezerra de Menezes, will say that the preservation of Spiritist Center is the duty of all dedicated spirits. Again, some people may feel, I don't need it, this is not the best for me, but there will be many people who will feel like they need this space. So for us who are workers, for any person, because you don't have to be a worker, but if the message has spoken to your heart, then, and if you're willing to think beyond yourself, then there's always going to be people knocking on this door, and it is our duty to keep the doors open and be able to welcome everyone. So here are 4 different aspects when we think about the Spiritist Center. I'm going to talk a little bit about them. We can think of it as a school that instructs and educates. We can think of as a hospital that treats and helps healing. Workshop place for service, rehabilitation and empowerment. And a home, a lab for relating. A place where we can experience the principles and improve in an environment of improved conditions. We'll talk about that too. So here it is, the way it used to be before the pandemic, our study groups. And perhaps this is one of the aspects that I think the online world has done a really good job. I mean, nowadays, you don't have to go to university to get a degree. I myself got an online doctorate in physical therapy, although I had to go for the hands-on part, but many of my classes were online. And the online study allows for, again, people from, we can join study groups in Brazil if we want, we can join study groups in Europe. Oh, I don't like the instructors of conscious living, I want to go study elsewhere. Well, you have this option, right? So this is amazing. This is really good. But I don't know. I'm still like thinking about all the hugs that I got when I walked in, and how nice was that. And one of the things that we have learned is we have taken for granted having each other in each other's life, our friendships, being able to be with people. And yeah, it's nice to see all that people online. But you're just seeing the face, right? You don't know if they are wearing shorts, flip-flops, or what, right? Then you see someone, and you're looking at me right now, you see my hands, you see my body, you see my expression, you feel my energy in a way that the online work will never allow. So it's something that kind of boosts our wanting, our desire to study is a component that makes the study also more fun. Relating is key for happiness, right? So many studies, this is science, many studies says that one component for happiness, the most important component, is people who is having relationships and quality relationships. And I think here at the center today is a testimony for that. I haven't seen some of you in a really long time. Some of you I did see online. But we come together and we are sure that what we have among ourselves is solid. It was built, but it was not built online. It was built because we have a journey together. If I look at this front row here, these folks, they're part of my family. And when I see them, I'm certain of what I have with them. The love, the respect, the friendship, even if you don't talk for a while because life is crazy, but when we meet, it's all there. It has never left. And this is what studying together does for us. In terms of workshop, so our mentors do not want to see us as spirits forever in need. They want to have us as glorious partners in the service of love, so generous, strong, and wise as they are. So, coming to the Spiritist Center, one of the things that you will be offered is the possibility to join the center as a worker. We all have needs, but we all have so much to give. And so giving is what really makes life, gives meaning to life. And the wonderful thing about giving is that the more you give, the more you realize that you have within yourself this unlimited potentiality to love. And so as you give, as you help, as you dedicate your energy and time to others, you discover how beautiful and divine and so full of potentiality you are. So you're helping others, but ultimately you are the one who is being and receiving the greatest benefits of all. And you go from a position of victimization, powerlessness to, hey, I too have something to give, and I am important, and my life is meaningful, and I can make a difference in this world, even if it's in the life of one person who I gave a hug, who I gave a smile. And that is what's missing in the world. People are living without meaning. People are living without purpose. Their purpose is on the material, but the material is here today and it's not tomorrow. It cannot sustain us in our journey. It needs to be a little bit more than that, so that we wake up, no matter what life brings us, with that deep sense of gratitude for the abundance of opportunities and the abundance of gifts that we receive every day. And it's also a hospital. So the person who arrives at the Spiritist Center is not someone asking for help, or one more person attending, or one more contributor, or one more client, or one more sick person. It's above all a brother that Jesus sent to our home and heart, waiting for a crumb of love. So we believe that people are guided here. People are guided to me, to you. You know, it's not random. Nothing's ever random. There is a higher force in the universe. I don't know whether you believe in God or you call higher force, but there is something that organizes this entire universe. Because if you look up there, and up there is so big and huge, everything is in harmony. Everything is in harmony. And this force, this God, as we call, is working into our lives, is involved, is engaged into our lives. Not personally, not as a person, but through these amazing laws that we don't fully understand. But they guide us. They take care of us. They bring us to the right person, to the right place at the right moment. And this is the reason why we need to be here. Because one day we were here when you arrived. So you might even choose to say, you know what, I don't need to go there for yourself. But perhaps you will choose to be here, to be the one who is going to open the door for the next person who arrives. So in talking about the hospital, right, I'm going to bring a couple concepts here before we close. The assembly, and this is just in different words kind of what I have already said. It's a focus where diverse thoughts radiate. It's like an orchestra, a choir of thoughts where each one produces its note. This results in an immensity of fluidic currents of which each one receives the impression through the spiritual sense, as in a musical choir. Each one receives the impression of the sounds through the sense of hearing. So again, we did talk about this, and I just like this analogy. And so when we come in here, we are receiving the blessings of these energies. And there is, the same way that there is a team of people, incarnate beings, there is a team of discarnate beings who's also working in your energy, in your psychic, in your physical body as you are sitting there. And it makes it easier. A lot of times we bring, because the disharmonies of the body are usually a reflection of the disharmonies of our emotional, psychic, and energetic being. So a lot of times interventions are being done, and it's easier to be done here because, again, we settle, our minds are operating, following what's being said, and allows this window where they can intervene and help with so much healing, harmonization of ourselves during this time. Such is the cause of the feeling of satisfaction that one experiences in a friendly meeting. There reigns a kind of salubrious moral atmosphere where one can breathe freely. From there one leaves comforted, because there we impregnate ourselves with salutary fluids. The translation's not so good, but I think you get the idea. The communion of thoughts thus produces a sort of physical effect that reacts on the moral. Only Spiritism could make one understand. Man feels it instinctively as he looks for meetings where he knows how to find this communion. In these homogeneous and sympathetic meetings, one draws new moral forces. It could be said that there the person recovers the fluidic losses lost daily by the radiation of thought, just as a person recovers the losses of the material body through food. I want to highlight here one thing on this paragraph, which is when it talks about produces a sort of physical effect that reacts on the moral. So a lot of times, again, it's hard for us to think. It's hard for us to see something because we are so distressed by life. And when we come in here and we receive these assistance, these interventions, we leave here feeling better. Sometimes we're just inspired. Sometimes we're just more hopeful. Sometimes we're just a little bit more energized. But whatever that is, it might be precisely what you need to go out there and say, you know what, I'm going to do this. So the physical effects of being in an environment like this might be the little push that you needed to say, I can do this. I can do this work. I'm going to be better with myself. I'm going to be more compassionate with myself. I'm going to be more loving with myself, whatever it is that you need in that moment. And this is how I understand this concept here. The vibrations is spread by the environment of a Spiritist Center, by the care of their invisible guardians, the useful fluids necessary for the varied and delicate works that must be carried out there, from the healing of the sick to the conversion of suffering discarnate entities, and even to the oratory inspired by spiritual instructor, are essential elements, moved by the workers of immortality in the service of third revelation. So this paragraph gives you some ideas of the types of works that can be done in an environment like this. The healing of the sick. The primary source of healing is the healing of our own soul. So yes, there are interventions, fluids. We're talking about energy. So there is healing of the body through the absorption of the energies, but there is healing of the soul, which is the primary source of all illnesses, through the studies, through the concepts that help us to reorganize our lives, to reset what is essential in our day-to-day lives. And this is the primary source of healing, because if we heal the body without healing the soul, most likely we'll fall sick again, because we are not treating the source. I like to do a little joke, and because I'm a physical therapist, and my friends chiropractors, who are wonderful individuals and do a wonderful job, I always tell them, if you fix the spine without fixing the source that led to the imbalance on the spine in the first place, it's just like a temporary relief. So when we treat the body without going to the soul, we're getting a lot of times a temporary relief because we haven't really addressed the issues that led to the illness in first place. And last but not least, it's a relational lab. And I like to say, bring here from the Gospel according to Spiritism, love one another. This is the first commandment, educate yourselves. This is the second. Relationships are the tool, the means, the way for spiritual evolution. We can evolve in isolation. We evolve dealing with each other. Oh, do I need to go to the Spiritist Center to evolve? No, because you are relating all the time, with, at home, with your family, at work. So if you bring that spiritual awareness to every single encounter you have, yes, you don't need to be here. What is the difference? And I like to say this and play with this. If we cannot make our relationships work in this environment, then we're in trouble, because out of here is a lot more complex. So here, what happens when you walk in here? I want to help. I want to be patient. I want to be forgiven, right? You were reminded that in this space, you're supposed to treat one another kindly. If someone says something different, your mind is set to try to address that in the best way possible, because this is your spiritual family, because you're here, because you're committed to this work with yourself, with Jesus, with God, with the universe. So there is a higher commitment and there is a higher awareness. So I like to think as a lab where the environment is controlled to make us successful. The experiment to work out the best way possible. So it gives us this opportunity to experience and experiment with all these values in this more organized, blessed environment, to see if we succeed here, we can do a little better out there. The idea is that we're going to bring the same idea and concept and awareness to our daily lives, and to think that our spouse, our children, our mother-in-law, and our worker is also someone that's part of my spiritual family, to whom I am committed to work in that relationship, because I'm committed to myself, to God, to the universe, whatever. So this is from Kardec. He says, we have said that the real object of religious assemblies must be the communion of thoughts. Is that in fact the word religion means bond. A religion in its broad and true sense is a bond that unites men in a communion of feelings, principles, and beliefs. So I'm going to skip some of those and get here with Cesar Said, which is a friend of ours from Brazil. He wrote this book where he says, the fact is that a Spiritist Center represents a joint investment of incarnate and the discarnate, aiming to spread Spiritism and create an environment where equality, freedom, and fraternity can believe under the inspiration of the gospel of Jesus. And there's one more. The Spiritist Center is a living and pulsating cell, a place of work for everyone, of solidarity among everyone, and of tolerance for everyone. So that's the idea. I think it summarizes really well. So in closing, Jesus said, in the world you have only tribulation. And why is that? Because of our level of awareness or unawareness, as I mentioned before. It's not that we are doomed. It's just that we are learning. It's just that we are still in, I won't say our infancy anymore, but in our pre-teen years in terms of awareness and evolution. So again, a lot of times we are so easily distracted, and we are so focused on our own self that we create. It's not that God created a bad world or God is absent. We're the ones who are creating our own suffering, our own difficulties by deviating from love. And so when Jesus said that, he said because he knew who he was talking to. He knew where we were in our evolution. And so we are undergoing a number of challenges that ultimately are here to help us to grow, to help us to really figure out what is it that we need to be doing and who we are. So, knowing that, and with all the concepts that I share with you, I'm going to close with this quote from Emmanuel, where he says, in view of that, don't say you are useless. No one is useless. There is a use for every single person. Every single person seated here today has something to give and a contribution to make. So the invitation is to improve and to serve. Happiness is exchange. Love is fusion. The divine messengers aspire to exchange their strength with yours in the reciprocal transfusion of ideas and hopes, so the heavens descend to earth and earth rises to heaven. So that is the invitation. Let's come back if that makes sense to you. This place is eager to see you and to be yours. It's your home, it's our place, our safe heaven, where it's not perfect. It couldn't be. We are so far from that. But it's a place of love. The best expression that we can manifest at this time is a place of acceptance, is a place of non-judgment, is a place of empowerment, is a place of healing. It's our place. So we hope to see everybody here next Sunday and in any other opportunity that you choose to join us. Thank you.